This is double shifts. Before I begin with the explanation, I need you to do something. I need you to copy this down in your notebook. So I'm going to read it so make sure you can see. Okay, over here, this is D for demand, S for supply, P for price, Q for quantity. This is called double shifts. So what happens when demand increases but supply has no change? What happens to P and Q? What happens to demand when it decreases down? Supply no change. What happens to P and Q? Demand no change, supply up. Demand no change, supply down. And then the same thing as we go through. Okay? I'm going to come back to this in a minute. So take a pause, copy it down in your notebook right this second. Okay, so what am I talking about? We're talking about double shifts, right? So when we talk about demand increasing and only demand increasing or decreasing, we're talking about what I call a single shift. We're not talking about the producers, we're only talking about the scenario of the demander's side, the demander's point of view. So, only demand or only supply changes. So let's say demand goes either up or down. If demand increases, we know that price increases and quantity increases. Seems pretty easy, right? Demand more, we get more, and price goes up because demand shifts to the right and up, so price rises. When demand goes down, then price goes down and quantity goes down. And we're exact, we're affirmative. What about when supply by itself changes? When supply by itself changes, supply increases, then price goes down, right? More supply. At the same time, quantity goes up, right? The Q goes up. Well, when supply decreases, then the quantity goes down, which makes sense, less supply, less quantity, but the price goes up. So it's different than demand, right? Because they're two different, one's a positive slope, one's a negative slope. Well, what happens when both of them shift at the same time? Okay, so I'm going to show you a trick. I'm going to go over one. Let's say the example is for the first one. Demand is going to increase. At the same time, supply is going to increase. Here's how you do it, the easiest way to do it. Eventually, you'll be able to do it in your head. But before you get there, I draw little graphs for each one. One for demand, one for supply. I say, all right, well, demand increases, so therefore I know price is going to go up, so I put P goes up, and quantity is going to go up, so Q goes up. And then I go to the supply and I write, all right, well, when supply increases, price goes down, quantity increases. And I draw that there. And then I look at the middle and I say, all right, what happens to price all the time when D goes up and S goes up? Well, P over here goes up, P over here goes down. So that means price can go up or down depending upon which one shifts is larger. If demand increases larger than supply increases a smaller, then the price is going to be either up or down. And we call that ambiguous. And I think I actually did it wrong. So I'm going to write the correct answer. Okay. So P goes up, P goes down. So when demand increases and supply increases, price is ambiguous, AMB. Meanwhile, quantity, well, what happens? Look over at quantity. It went up and it went up. So quantity is always going to go up. Try the next one on your own. What happens when demand increases and supply decreases? I'll give you a second or pause it. Well, let's draw it out. When demand increases, I'll put my little D2. Well, price is going to go up, quantity is going to go up. So for the demand side, I'm going to say P goes up and Q goes up. But what about the supply side? Getting a little tight down here. But on the supply side, supply decreases, So it shifts to the left. So I'll make this S1 and S2. This goes to the left, right? So price is going to go up. Quantity is going to go down. So price goes up, quantity goes down. Now you can answer the question. What happens when demand increases and supply decreases? Price went up and up, so P is 100% going to go up in that scenario. However, quantity went up for one and down for the other, so therefore this is ambiguous. Okay? Now, it might be a little confusing, but if you start practicing them, this is how I would set it up at first. So I'm going to ask you all these scenarios, right? So there's only 4 more scenarios, I believe. So demand down, supply down, demand down, supply up. What happens there? So you should be able to do it. Again, we're going to do each one of these. Okay? What happens in all of these scenarios? And you should have either an arrow up, an arrow down, the word ambiguous, or no change. Okay? There'll be no change in quantity. But that's not the answer for these guys because we are doing a shift. All right? So I'll go over this in class. You should be able to get all of these correct.